Everybody, Mark, Circle of Dark Mother, and today I'm going to do a talk about meaning of Lilith's names. And I'm going to do some specific ones, and we'll talk about what and why here in a minute. So Lilith's names. There are many, many names related to Lilith in various cultures and texts. In this video, I'm only going to cover names that are very closely related to the name Lilith and her origins in Mesopotamia, and then later in Judaism. Many will argue that Lilith was not a goddess in Mesopotamia. This is a combination of confusion over various wind spirits in the region's mythology, which have similar names, and the fact that Lilith was both a goddess and a demon, something that Western culture struggles with. Really, because of Christianity and such, really hard time seeing a goddess as also a demon. They are not mutually exclusive in Mesopotamia. However, the Assyrian god list contains an entry for Lilith in both her Sumerian and Assyrian names. This list only contains gods and goddesses. However, some are also demons. Demons in Mesopotamian society are entities that don't follow the rules of the main pantheon. Lilith is one such goddess. So, her Sumerian name. Lilith's Sumerian name is written with the syllables dim, mi, gi, or g, depending on how you pronounce it. The Sumerian language is isolate, meaning there is no language known that is related to it. Unlike English, it isn't based in letters, but instead syllables, and it's written in a form of writing called cuneiform. The prefix dim me is pronounced kamad. And I know that doesn't sound like it makes any sense, but there's a lot of these kinds of things in Sumerian. And remember, it's an isolate language, so we don't quite understand why it is the way it is. And it's thought to be a placeholder for deity, this word kamad, but a certain kind of deity, female goddess demons, because all of the other Sumerian goddesses whose names start with dim.me, with Kamad, are all demons and goddesses. And there's several of them. And there are several words that end with the syllable gi or g. This syllable has several meanings based on the particular cuneiform. The form of Gi or G in this name for Lilith is actually the sixth version, which means night. The first version means reed, like a reed in a um, growing out of the land, but this one means night. So her name can be translated to she of the night or goddess of the night. Assyrian is a Semitic language, much like Hebrew, but still written using the cuneiform writing script. The Assyrians were in power in Mesopotamia after Sumer. Lilith's name is in Assyrian is Lilitu. The name is made of two syllables, Lil and Itu. Lil has a very well-known meaning, as there are several other deities that contain this part of their name. And that's the god Enlil and his consort Ninlil. Both have Lil as part of their name. And that word means, or that syllable means wind. Itu means moon in Assyrian. So Lilitu can be translated to mean wind of the moon, which obviously has something to do with night and also with the substance of the night. Curian. So the Curian culture was located north of Mesopotamia, what is in now Turkey. The Hurrians had their own language, but they also used cuneiform for their writing. The Hurrian language features a deity whose name is written with a star character, which is a sort of shorthand for the phrase dinger. And this also means deity. This dinger, which looks like a star, um, is a word for deity. And this goddess's name is written star.gi. Now, a little bit different spelling here, because remember, this is a different language. This is Hurrian instead of Sumerian. But the name would be pronounced Dingergi or Dingerji. And this goddess is known to be a Hurrian goddess of night. So it makes sense that if Kamadgi is a goddess of night, Dingergi, which was also, a word for deity, followed by the gi sound, also would be associated with Lilith. And then in Judaism, Lilith's name is spelled Lamed Yad Tav in Hebrew. Hebrew does not use our alphabet, they have their own, and each of their letters have a meaning. Lamed means ox goad, or in its basic form, or in a more um, fuller form, it means that which drives. If you think about it, an ox goad is what drives an ox to move. So this is what drives. Yod means spirit of deity, spirit of God. It's the first name of the Tetragrammaton. So, so Yod is really the spirit of deity. And this spelling of Lilith's name has two Lamed Yod in it, Lamed Yod, Lamed Yod. And what that means is that it is giving emphasis. It's meaning that this name very much means that which drives to the spirit of deity. And then we know that Tav, the last letter in its basic form means mark, but in a more full sense, it means unification. So, based on the Hebrew letters, her name would denote that which drives you to deity and ends in unification. So, really, the fact that she is the consciousness, the entity that forces us to our transformation. And that sort of makes sense. If you think about night being the time of passion, the time of um, dreams, the time of desire, the time where we are scared because predators of the night and we can't see well. And those are the things that drive us to want to be better and to survive. And that's really what she's about. It's also believed that the name Lilith may also derive from the Hebrew word for night, Layla, that it could be a cognate of that. So there's many connotations of Lilith's name in Hebrew based on the Midrash. So the non-canonical, actually non-biblical texts. To Jewish people, they are canonical. They're not to Christians. But these are many, many stories that are based in the Torah, and some of them are about Lilith. And her name means all kinds of different things. But one main attribute that always shows up is night. In a lot of the text, she's equated to the moon, she's equated with owls, she's equated with nighttime. So obviously, she has to do with night. And so, what we can see here is sort of a progression of this she of the night in Sumer, who becomes something of a night and moon goddess in Assyria and also in the Hurrian culture. And then eventually she makes her way into Judaism. We know that the Jewish people were in exile in Babylon, which is part of Mesopotamia, for quite a while. And during that time, they picked up a bunch of pieces that they wove into their writings. Some of those became part of their canonical texts, such as the of Songs or Song of Solomon, is really based on a hymn to Ishtar. We also know that their way of anointing was taken from the Babylonians, but they also took other things. And any of the deities that didn't fit into their worldview, such as women that were wild and sexually open, they demonized them. And so what happens is this being who is later called Lilitu becomes Lilith in Hebrew. And remember, Hebrew and Assyrian are both Semitic languages. So many words are very similar. So the fact that it's got, Lilith instead of Lilitu, and in some texts it's Lilit, just Lilit, it really does show that there's a progression here and that Lilith moves through these cultures. Of course, in Jewish culture, she's demonized. She's turned into the queen of hell, Adam's first wife, the consort of Samael, one of the chief demons. But really, she is ancient, and she is this primordial force of night that takes on many attributes, some of them very bright, and some of them very dark and seemingly demonic. So hopefully that was interesting. I'll try to cover other names, but these are ones that sort of flow together through a historical perspective. Thank you. Take care. Talk soon.